Hey, what's good, y'all boys? It's that guy EXO here, back with another video, and this time around we'll be making a pitch for an absolute cyborg. See, like one of the biggest questions I have in trying to come up with this idea for changing the dynamic and everything was simply this. At first, it would be along the lines of like Cyborg and his dad, like having a bit of like a change where it's like kind of flipped or whatever. Like his dad being a coach while Victor, he's a science guy. But I figured that wasn't good enough. You see, instead, we're going to say this. Victor was always a gifted athlete, and he even had the support from his parents in this timeline as well. The issue is that this was all he actually had. His parents, they weren't brilliant scientists in this version of events either. His mother was an assistant, sure, but not actively part of any other research projects. His dad was actually his coach as well, his high school coach. And financially, his family wasn't quite struggling, but not necessarily well off either. To Victor, he felt like he had to be the best though. If he had if he had to, he was gonna do it. If he could get a football scholarship and eventually capture the attention of the big names, he could give his parents everything that they never had. Show them that their support would not be in vain. And he would continue to push himself to keep ahead of the rest of the pack while keeping the facade that this was effortless on the field. It would lead to his body beginning to, fail on him with sports injuries piling up on each other and him resorting to like the use of performance enhancing drugs. He would get caught though and reported to the sports administration, and from there, Victor Stone would be suspended from playing any sports for the remainder of the year, and all of his titles stripped away from him. This basically disappointed his parents severely, and having basically lost out on the potential to get a football scholarship, you know, he would feel pretty hopeless. Victor would just find himself beginning to hang around the wrong crowds where he would hear all sorts of things that he actually wanted to hear, you know, instead of actually hearing what he needed to hear. Basically hearing all these sugared words being like, oh yeah, you're the best, you're the greatest, and his life, it would just begin to spiral out of control while his parents, they would just try to get their son back after noticing like his down spiral. It would lead to Victor even breaking into the research lab that his mother worked in to steal some tech and sell it, splitting like the profit with the groom that he was hanging around. And this heist, it would just turn left very quickly though. You see, the groom would have entered during night, doing their best to remain unnoticed, and they would immediately set off their alarms though when they started stealing some of the tech. They were young and dumb, not necessarily accounting for that, and many would end up quickly trying to flee the scene. They would accidentally turn on some of the tech though, leading to them getting injured in the process. And of the pieces of technology that they turned on, they would accidentally awaken an advanced AI that would attack them, and this AI wouldn't have seen them all as threats after all. So from there, few would manage to escape and many would end up dying. As for Victor though, he was close to suffering the same fate. One of the scientists who was working late would arrive just in time, yelling a code to turn the AI off. And after this incident, Star Labs would have threatened to throw charges at the Stone family while their son was being sustained in one of the lab's chambers. He was in critical condition and could risk dying if taken out of the chamber for too long. One of the leading scientists would actually suggest an idea, though, that could benefit everybody in this situation. Instead of pressing charges against the Stone family for the actions of their son, they could provide express consent to save the boy's life with the use of their advanced technology. Some of it was rather experimental though, so they couldn't be mad at the result as long as it saved his life. They wouldn't be allowed to press charges against Star Labs either, lest they bring in their yeah, bring in their own numerous charges. I just had like a brain fart for a second. But yeah, the Stones would have no choice but to agree, leading to Victor's body being used as basically a science experiment. And I mean, his body was in prime condition for like an experimental procedure as well, making like the integration of technology into his body easier. And I say his body was in prime condition, but I mean like it's just a prime candidate considering like he's youthful and all that sort. But from here, Cyborg would be born with the inclusion of this new AI as well. He would look more like a mix between his Young Justice and Teen Titans counterparts, having more human traits showing, but that being from the use of synthetic skin. He would also follow the color scheme of the Teen Titans version of himself more as well. And initially, Cyborg would see himself as a freak and kind of hate himself. He would have no one to blame but himself for this, and he would actually begin to regret all of the actions that led up to this. And while in his depressed state, a voice would actually ring in his head. It would be an all too familiar voice that would be agreeing with him, saying that yeah, it was all his fault. And that voice would be that of the AI that attacked him and the ones he foolishly considered his friends. This AI was originally intended to be used for combat and strategies for the US military, and while the military banned the scientists from being able to integrate this technology into their soldiers to turn them into superhumans, Cyborg was the scientists' next best option. Now, not only did Cyborg have to live with his new reality, but he would also have to deal with the AI constantly trying to influence him and take control of his body when they deemed the body was in danger. A special feature that this cyborg would have is an autopilot mode for when he's knocked unconscious and the human in him is unable to perform anymore. That's when the AI would completely take over with all the combat strategies being used to the best of their abilities. The issue would lie in how ethical some of these strategies were, but the AI would have no sense of that, instead, only understanding survival and conquest as that's what it was programmed for. And Cyborg would just have to learn how to deal with this alongside accidentally winding up to become a hero through all the events he would be pushed into. And through these events, he will begin to see himself in a new light, viewing it as a potential redemption, loving himself for all his human and cybernetic parts, and hopefully at least redeeming himself in the eyes of his parents as well. And that is basically my pitch for an absolute cyborg. And I guess like another thing I can probably add is the fact that like since this technology is experimental, his stuff don't be working sometimes, and he may need to get upgrades every now and then from these scientists as well. So you may just see him like fiddling with like a screwdriver and all that from time to time, just to make it a little interesting. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say. It is EXO signing out. Remember to like and maybe subscribe or leave a comment or something along those lines. But yeah, peace.